Yu-Gi-Oh! The board game, or Yu-Gi-Oh! Millennium, or Yu-Gi-Oh! Millennium Game Juego Gen, or Hen, or Yen. I'm not sure what language that is. I mean, I'm not against board games. I love board games, and the kitschier the better. I used to have a Darkwing Duck board game that I loved as a kid. You have a popular franchise, you want to make a buck.
Yu-Gi-Oh! The t-shirt, Yu-Gi-Oh! The coloring book, Yu-Gi-Oh! The toilet paper, Yu-Gi-Oh! The flamethrower! The kids love that one.
Making a board game is a no-brainer.
Just like this game. What? Who said that?
Actually, the decision to make the board game is a no-brainer. Actually creating something unique that doesn't seem like a rehash of all the other things that came before it, and that somehow captures the feeling of the source material, that's a little more difficult. But I have to give credit where credit is due. The interesting part of this game is the character holster system. Players go around as one of the 4 characters from the Yu-Gi-Oh! Show and comic. Manga. Yugi, the good-hearted short stack possessed by the spirit of an ancient Egyptian pharaoh who helps him cheat at card games in order to save the world. Seto Kaiba, the billionaire egotist who obsesses over card games, blue eyes, white dragons, and beating Yugi. Joey Wheeler, Yugi's tough-as-nails best friend. And Mai Valentine, the saucy hot competitor with hidden emotional baggage. Each player starts out with one piece of the Millennium MacGuffin, and your goal is to win the other pieces by beating the other players at duel monsters. You get monster cards by going to card shops. When you enter one, you pick up a monster card from a draw stack. When you get your first monster, you just slip it in the character's plastic holder. I don't know why all the male characters get profile shots, why Mai has this flirty pose from the waist up without her jacket on, but it gives me cravings.
Fan service.
The numbers revealed are the numbers of the rolls that the players get with green and blue battle dice. So the difference between this game and Duel Monsters is that some characters do better with certain monsters than others. In Duel Monsters, if any player summons Exodia, the Forbidden One, they instantly win. In this game, only Yugi can get the most out of Exodia, but if you try to put him in Kaiba's holder, you can see that it's considerably less. So in a way, this is kind of like a skills simulator, showing how these specific characters from the show use these monsters. For example, according to this game, Karibo is actually stronger than Gaia the Fierce Knight.
That's crazy.
I know, right? But if you go along with my theory, think about all the cool strategies Yugi has gotten out of that little puffball.
Do the law, motherfucker.
So as you would expect, duelists will get the best out of signature monsters associated with them through the show, like Kaiba and his Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragon, or Joey with his Red Eyes Black Dragon. But again, I'm drawn to Mai, and not for those reasons.
I don't believe you.
It's her roster. It's filled with the most random monsters that could be associated with her. Yeah, she has Harpy Lady, but then she has the Dark Sage, which is one of Yugi's monsters. It's actually an older version of his signature monster, the Dark Magician. She's also best with the Blackluster Soldier, a card used by Yugi to actually defeat her in one match. I can sort of see why the Mystic Elf is there, because it's another female monster, although that's really kind of sexist. And another one of Yugi's cards. Now I don't even know where Lai Jin came from. I know it's probably hard to come up with matches for Mai, since she only uses Harpy Lady cards, but this had to be released around the Merrick season, so they could have gone with the Harpy Sisters, Harpy's Pet Dragon, and one of those Amazon cards that she was using. Oh, but there's also a group of monsters that give the same stats to all 3 players. They don't even switch them up. You can really see the effort. But this is just fanboy nitpicking. And besides, you don't have to worry about any of this, since you won't be using any of these cards for the majority of the game. Yeah, you didn't mishear me. You play 3 other games to try to get more monsters that you will not use. Is any of this making sense? Of course not! This is the problem! I should back up. Most of the game is spent going around this big empty board from card shop to card shop, trying to collect the best monsters for your character. And no, you can't just go into the card shop on one turn and then go back in the next. They thought of that. But you can't go back in the card shop if you want to protect yourself from another player challenging you. This is a place of business, not games. I don't even know where you would get that idea. You can win cards off other players if you land next to them and challenge them to one of 3 games selected randomly from these cards. Why don't you play with the cards that you're collecting?
Because shut up.
It's like being sent to card game hell,
where your entire deck is on the banned list.
The first is Sakura, or dice rolling. You roll the blue and green dice 3 times. The player with the most stars wins. The blue die has 1 out of 3 chances of getting a star, and the green has 1/2 chance of getting a star. This would be useful information if you were playing duel monsters, but you're not, so The next game is Janken, or paper, rock, scissors. Get your Yome on. The last is Ikuza, or war. For this one, you'll be needing trap tiles. They're power-ups that will help you win duel monsters, which I must remind you, you are not playing. But in this, you'll be looking at the numbers in the corner. Each player sets down 1 face down, and then they flip them over, and the highest wins. If a player doesn't have any tiles, then they lose instantly. You know, I just thought of something. Maybe this game is based off Yu-Gi-Oh! Season 0, where Yami was a malicious spirit that used party games as an excuse to murder people that were just slightly more evil than him.
Tell me something, my friend. You ever dance with the devil in the pale moonlight? What? I always ask that of all my prey. I just like the sound of it.
Since I just introduced them, the trap tiles are special power-ups that you collect from these side buildings. In order to figure out what they do, you'll need to have the rules handy until you memorize all the different powers. Why don't they just print the rules for each tile on the card? Have you seen the actual card game? Yu-Gi-Oh! Brand high-powered microscope sold separately. Wait, game? Juego? Gen? Oh man, I just figured it out this second. Instead of printing the rules out for the individual cards in 3 different languages, they just printed 3 sets of instructions and released the same product to all markets. Yeah, pretty cost effective, and it seems seamless until you realize that all the monster names are printed in English. Okay, so when do you actually duel with the monsters? Well, when a player feels like they've collected a strong enough monster and have a few good trap tiles to help them, then they can go to the arena and challenge another player. That player is teleported to the arena and you finally use the monsters. Remember what I said about the green and blue dies? The numbers revealed are the numbers of the rolls that the players get with green and blue battle dice. Naturally, you want the most die rolls. The player with the most hits wins the loser's Millennium puzzle piece. Both players are teleported back to their respective game shops, where they can each draw another monster card. And just because a player loses their puzzle piece doesn't mean they're out of the game. Just like how the player that collects all the pieces from his opponents doesn't really win.
How long do these things usually last?
It could technically go on for hours.
I mustn't run away! I mustn't run away! I mustn't run away!
You see, there's one final piece that the player will have to collect. This is done by the other players choosing the strongest of them to fight again. If the challenger player loses, then all the pieces are returned to the players, and the whole thing starts over again.
No!
Okay, I know that people look at the card game and wonder what's the appeal. God, all those numbers, and symbols, and rules for rules that you have to look up in the rules. What, did Nolan make this game? But here's the thing. Yu-Gi-Oh! May look tedious and repetitive, but really, the core of the game is very simple. Attack mode, defense mode, highest number wins. The interesting part is the different variations and effects that all the other cards bring in. It's like setting up a big Rube Goldberg machine. Each new card adding an element that affects the previous ones in the chain. You might see a bunch of cards, but what's going on in the player's head is something kind of like the mind battle from Hero, or, to a far lesser extent, the time battle from Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey.
Excellent!
And I'm not saying stupid people don't get it, or players don't get burnt out. What I'm saying is the strategy can be as simple or complex as the mind that creates it. This board game, B-O-R-E-D, is the tedium that people who aren't into card games or RPGs must think is inherent to that kind of gaming. Even the actual duel monsters is just busy work. Why do they have to have 2 dice and 2 sets of numbers? If it were me, I'd try to incorporate the attack and defense modes from the original game. Have the green dice be the attack number and the blue dice be the defensive points. Of course, what's the point of just transferring one card game to another watered-down inferior version? I'd say this game could overcome that by incorporating elements from the storyline, which is, I guess, why you play as the main characters. But look at the empty space! They couldn't make a track with events from the show? It's easy. Mako Tsunami throws a harpoon in your path, lose 1 turn. Evil Underwood throws your cards overboard, discard 1 of your monster cards. Grandpa compliments you on your breast size, draw 1 monster card. But no. What we have here is a game where you have to play one of 3 games in order to play a slightly better game within the game. Oh my god, it was Christopher Nolan.
It was all just a dream. Or was it?
High five!
Oh, sorry, Chico. I'm never gonna finish this book. How long was I asleep?
Nye, 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 nye. Nye, 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 nye. Nye, 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 nye. I wanna duel 'em like they do in Yu-Gi-Oh! Face down, face up, trap cards, spell cards, then time roulette go. I love it! All I do is just believe in the heart of the cards. And then I kick some butt when I use Swordsman of Leinster. Oh, whoa, 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 whoa. Whoa, 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 whoa. Ain't no surprise, check out my red eyes. Oh, whoa, 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 whoa. Whoa, 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 whoa. Ain't no surprise, check out my red eyes.
Man, how long was I asleep? When the hell did I do that?